こんにちは、ハリケーンフットボールです。2026年、ワールドカップの準決勝、イングランド対アルゼンチンの試合に関する動画です。イングランドは、ゴードンのゴールで先制しながらも、その直後から守りに入って終盤に逆転を許した戦い方が、現地でもかなり批判されています。スカイスポーツでも、イングランド敗退の最大の原因は、トーマス・トゥーヘルの経験不足による、メンバー選考と交代策の失敗だったと断罪しています。日本でも、ほんの一部の解説者や専門家は、森保監督をもっと批判すべきだという話もありますが、やはり海外と比べれば、ほぼないに等しいレベルだと思いますし、メディアが批判することは、ほぼ皆無と言えるでしょう。今回の敗戦に対し、トゥヘル監督に対する現地メディアでは、どのように報じられているのか、チェックしてみましょ
う。I think it was the moment of truth for Thomas Tuchel, and he wasn't up to it. I think he was one of the reasons why England lost this game. I want to make the point that I think overall Argentina were the better side. I think even if Thomas Tuchel had made some different substitutions, there was a good chance that Argentina would have gone on to win that game. Maybe in extra time, maybe on penalties. But Thomas Tuchel was brought in to be the England manager for games like yesterday's game. He is a brilliant club manager. He has an incredible record in knockout football at club level. He's managed some of the biggest clubs in the world. But what he didn't have was any international experience. This is the first major tournament he's ever been at as a manager. He had never picked a tournament squad before. I think his first mistake was the squad he picked. Somehow he thought it was a good idea to come to a World Cup without some of England's best players. He did that because he wanted to create a brotherhood. He didn't want to have any players in the squad who were big names who may have been unhappy with not playing regularly. To me, that does not make sense. When you're the England manager, you have to pick the best players that are available. If some of them have big egos, if some of them don't get on with each other, it's your job as the manager to manage that situation and to get the best out of those players. Now, what went wrong last night is I think Thomas Tuchel tried to be too clever. I think he was very, very smart with what he did away in Mexico City, and he thought he could do the same thing against Argentina. But I'm afraid at this level, you cannot bring on the players he brought on and hope to shut up shop when there was still 40 minutes of the game to go once England scored, if you include added time. I think he got his substitutions totally wrong. It sent out the wrong message to the players. And I just think it's Thomas Tuchel's inexperience at this level. That is why I think England are out of this World Cup. It could have been totally different. I think he should have brought different players in his squad. I think he should have had a settled defence all along during the tournament. England sides are built on a solid defence. You can't have a situation at a tournament where England have 6 different right backs. You can't have a situation where they're constantly chopping and changing formation, players moving from one position to another position. English football was built on the fact that you have a solid back four. Why couldn't we have had, for instance, last night, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Mark Gay, Trent Alexander-Arnold? In my opinion, that should have been England's defence all the way through this tournament, instead of having the constant changes that Thomas Tuchel has brought into this side. I think it was in his experience, but hopefully he's learnt from the experience going forward, and who knows, maybe next time round England will be able to take the next step. But I've got to tell you, if you're an England fan, being here yesterday was an absolutely horrible, terrible experience. You were in a stadium that was 80% Argentina fans. The whole area around the stadium, you could only see people in Argentina shirts. Obviously, everybody knows how they feel about England and England fans. A lot of England fans getting abused by Argentina fans. The atmosphere in the stadium was very, very febrile. The English national anthem, you couldn't hear it because it was being booed and jeered, and Argentina fans were singing over it. And then once England scored, you got the feeling that this is going to be a great day. This is going to be one of the best days ever in English football. but I'm afraid Thomas Tuchel's substitutions changed everything, and then from then on in, it was just a total and utter horror show.
Such a tough one to take. As you mentioned, Tuchel brought in to win the World Cup, which of course he hasn't. What next for him and England now?
Well, they have to play in the third place playoff against France in Miami on Saturday. I think if you gave the players the opportunity of going home today, most of them would say, look, we just want to go home. Why do we have to go to Miami to play in a meaningless fixture? I think you will see obviously lots of changes made to the England side. Lots of the players who haven't been playing regularly will get to play in that game. I assume they'll have mixed feelings about playing in that game because they will have wanted to have played lots more minutes in the actual real important games that England have played out here. But look, this has been a World Cup that has gone on for far too long. There have been far too many games. Lots of the games have basically been glorified friendlies. So why not have another glorified friendly? It makes FIFA a lot of money, and it seems that they are very keen to make as much money as possible at this World Cup, although they would say it is all reinvested back into the game.
As for Argentina, Kaveh, obviously they're going to be looking ahead to the final now, but they could be in hot water with FIFA. What was all that about?
Yeah, something we noticed last night after the final whistle. We were at the end of the ground where the majority of Argentina supporters were. And of course, after the final whistle, all the Argentina players came over to that end of the ground to celebrate with their fans. And one thing we noticed is that after a few minutes, a banner was unfurled, and in Spanish, it said the Falklands are Argentine. And some of the players were holding up this banner. Players like Nicolas Otamendi, who used to be at Manchester City, Lautaro Martinez, who's at Manchester United, Giovanni Lo Celso, who was at Spurs, were holding up the banner. And then they placed the banner on the pitch in front of their supporters. And it was there for, I would say, a good 2, 3, 4 minutes, perhaps. And then after that, one of the players folded up the banner and gave it to a member of Argentina's backroom staff. Now, of course, it is totally against FIFA's rules to have any political messaging at football games. I'm pretty sure that FIFA will end up fining Argentina for what they did after the game. I assume FIFA would want to do that once the final is out of the way. Now, Argentina have done something like this before. Back in April 2014, I think it was, before a game against Slovenia, their players posed with a banner which had a very, very similar message. On that occasion, they were fined 30,000 Swiss francs by FIFA. I imagine something similar will happen in the next few weeks.
次は解説です。今回は少し珍しいボキャブラリーや表現もありましたので、本日の解説をチェックしてみましょ
I think it was the moment of truth for Thomas Tuchel.
う。モーメント・オフ・トゥルースは、真価が問われる瞬間、勝負どころという意味です。スポーツでは決勝戦や PK 戦、ビジネスではプレゼンや商談、本番の試験など、結果が決まる重要な場面でよく使われます。直訳すると真実の瞬間ですが、実際には本当の実力が明らかになる瞬間という意味になります。英語圏では非常によく使われる定番表現で、映画やドラマでも頻繁に登場します。This is the moment of truth といえば、いよいよ本番だというニュアンスになります。プレッシャーがかかる場面では特によく耳にする表現です。覚えておくとスポーツ実況やビジネス英語でも役立ちます。
I think it was the moment of truth for Thomas Tuchel. I think it was the moment of truth for Thomas Tuchel, and he wasn't up to it.
Be up to it は、その仕事や挑戦に十分対応できるという意味です。能力だけでなく、体力や気力についても使えます。否定文では、I'm no up to it の形が非常によく使われ、自信がない、今は無理という意味になります。スポーツでは、この大舞台に対応できるかという場面でも頻繁に登場します。映画やドラマでも非常によく耳にする自然な表現です。up to のイメージは、 必要なレベルまで届いている、必要な基準を満たしている、です。up to には他にも、最大難々まで、誰か次第である、という意味があります。また、what are you up to? といえば、何をしているのという挨拶のような表現としてもよく使われます。up to は意味がいくつかありますが、どれも非常によく使われるので、まとめて覚えておくと英会話力が一段とアップします。
And he wasn't up to it. And he wasn't up to it. The atmosphere in the stadium was very, very febrile.
フィブライは、熱があるという意味から発展して、張り詰めた、極度に緊張したという意味で使われます。ニュース記事や新聞では非常によく見かける上級単語です。スポーツでは、スタジアム全体が異様な緊張感に包まれている様子を表すときによく使われます。ホスタイルよりも、空気がピリピリしているというニュアンスが強い表現です。実況や現地レポートでも使われることがあります。日常会話ではそれほど頻繁ではありませんが、知っていると英字新聞が読みやすくなります。特にイギリス英語でよく使われます。
The atmosphere in the stadium was very, very febrile. The atmosphere in the stadium was very, very febrile. You couldn't hear it because it was being booed and jeered.
ジエは、フランス語が語源の、ヤジを飛ばす、相手を馬鹿にして叫ぶという意味の単語です。単なるブーイングよりも、相手を称そうるニュアンスがあります。スポーツでは敵チームや審判に対して使われることが多い表現です。ブーと似ていますが、ブーは単純なブーイング、ジエは悪口や皮肉を含んだヤジを意味します。ニュース記事でも頻繁に登場します。名詞ではヤジという意味になります。スポーツ英語では覚えておきたい単語です。
You couldn't hear it because it was being booed and jeered. You couldn't hear it because it was being booed and jeered. Lots of the games have basically been glorified friendlies.
グロリファイドフレンドリーはスポーツでよく使われる皮肉な表現です。本来は重要な大会や公式戦であるにもかかわらず、内容や重要性が親善試合と変わらないと感じるときに使われます。グロリファイドは栄光を与える、称賛するという意味ですが、立派に見せているだけというニュアンスがあります。つまり、名前だけは立派という意味になります。サッカー評論家が大会を批判するときによく使う表現です。スポーツニュースでは比較的よく見かけます。少し辛口なニュアンスを持つ表現です。
Lots of the games have basically been glorified friendlies. Lots of the games have basically been glorified friendlies. A banner was unfurled.
アンフルは旗や横断幕、幕など、巻かれているものを広げるときに使う動詞です。スポーツではサポーターが巨大な横断幕を広げる場面でよく使われます。ニュースではデモや式典などでも頻繁に登場します。反対語はフルで、巻き取るという意味です。スポーツ記事や新聞では非常によく見かける上級語です。映像を思い浮かべると覚えやすい単語です。旗がゆっくり広がる様子をイメージすると記憶に残ります。
A banner was unfurled. A banner was unfurled.
いかがでしたか？メディアも結果論で話す印象も少なくないですが、良い時は良い、悪い時は悪いと話し、手のひら返しも過去に言ったことが間違っていたという訂正も当たり前のように行われ、日本のように過去に一度でも言ったことが、一回でも間違えていれば断罪される社会は、私は好きではありませんし、手のひら返しだとしても、その時に思ったことを思ったように言えることが、健全な社会だと思っているのは、もう20年前からですが、これからの20年も、それ以上先も、日本の社会が変わることはないと思っていますので、だからこそ個人的には、海外のメディアや反応を楽しんでいますが、正しいかどうかとは関係なく、ただ楽しんでいただければと思います。本日もご視聴いただきありがとうございました。またすぐにお会いしましょう。